Can you believe that we have finally actually received something sane regarding COVID coming out of a government agency, and not just any government agency, but an Australian government agency of all places, with the absolute, completely insane totalitarian bullshit that's going on in that country? I can hardly believe that this has actually been released. So this is going to be a very short post. I got the story from Ed Griffin's site, needtoknow.news. If you don't regularly follow his site, you should. But basically, this is a decision that originated from an improper dismissal dispute, but then went heavily into the issue of mandating vaccines. The Fair Work Commission, and let me see if we click up here, the Fair Work Commission is the Australian Industrial Relations Tribunal, and it's an independent workplace relations tribunal with power and authority to regulate and enforce provisions relating to minimum wages, unemployment conditions, enterprise bargaining, industrial action, dispute resolution, and termination of employment. Okay, so the story here is that they've released this 40-plus page decision, and in it they go into great detail regarding COVID-19 and mandating vaccinations. They make some excellent arguments. To keep the video short, I'm going to link to just the last 7 minutes of this woman's presentation. Let me get her name so I don't. Her name is Tanya Davies. It's only 14 minutes long total, so if you want to watch the first 7.5 minutes, which are all excellent, feel free to go ahead and do so, but the last 7 minutes or so are particularly excellent. I mean, the whole thing is good, but the last 7 minutes are really good, and all of the arguments made in the last 7 minutes of this decision could be argued with equal force anywhere around the world to anybody who is sane and willing to listen. So enough talk. The link to the decision and the link to the full video will be in the description.
Again, I urge you to please read this document because it is monumental to people who are fighting the forced vaccination public health orders of this state. There's a point here on page 35. Can COVID vaccinations be mandated by employers on health and safety grounds? And their first response is, the short answer to this question in almost every case is no. Well, that's a decisive decision for you. Let me go over. It says, critically, there is another alternative to vaccines to assist employers in meeting their work, health and safety obligations, and that is being tested. Actually, the rapid antigen testing or other tests, PCR tests, which many of us have had. Testing is arguably a better control measure compared to vaccines in meeting health and safety obligations, because you pretty much can determine if someone has the virus or doesn't have the virus with the test, whereas we already know that those who are vaccinated can still carry the virus. In short, there is no justifiable basis for employers to mandate COVID vaccinations to meet their health and safety obligations when there are other options available to appropriately manage the risk. Now, it goes on to more and more evidence that backs up our fight against mandatory vaccinations, or people will lose their job. All right, but let me now turn to the final comments. Now, their final comments are powerful, absolutely powerful. And if you don't read anything else in this report, then turn to page 41 and read the comments under the heading called Final Comments. Here it is. Research in the context of COVID-19 has shown that many who are vaccine hesitant are well educated, work in the healthcare industry, and have questions about how effective the vaccines are in stopping transmission, whether they are safe to take in pregnancy or if they affect fertility. A far safer and more democratic approach to addressing vaccine hesitancy and therefore increasing voluntary vaccine uptake lies in better education, addressing specific and often legitimate concerns that people may hold, and promoting genuine informed consent. It does not lie in censoring differing opinions or removing rights and civil liberties that are fundamental in a democratic nation. It certainly does not lie in the use of highly coercive, undemocratic, and unethical mandates. The statements by politicians that those who are not vaccinated are a threat to public health and should be locked out of society and denied the ability to work are not measures to protect public health. They are not about public health and not justified because they do not address the actual risk of COVID. These measures can only be about punishing those who choose not to be vaccinated. If the purpose of the public health orders is genuinely to reduce the spread of COVID, there is no basis for locking out people who do not have COVID, which is easily established by a rapid antigen test. Conversely, a vaccinated person who contracts COVID should be required to isolate until such time as they have recovered. Blanket rules such as mandating vaccinations for everyone across a whole profession or industry, regardless of the actual risk, fails the test of proportionality, necessity, and reasonableness. It is more than the absolute minimum necessary to combat the crisis and cannot be justified on health grounds. It is a lazy and fundamentally flawed approach to risk management and should be soundly rejected by courts when challenged. All Australians, those who are vaccinated and those who may not be able to get vaccinated and those who are vaccine hesitant, should vigorously oppose the introduction of a system of medical apartheid and segregation in Australia. It is an abhorrent concept and is morally and ethically wrong. And the antithesis, or the opposite, let me turn the page, to our democratic way of life and everything we value. Australians should also vigorously oppose the ongoing censorship of any views that question the policies regarding COVID. Science is no longer science if a person is not allowed to question. Well, friends, that is unbelievably powerful, and that is an endorsement of the hundreds and thousands of individuals and families and business owners who have been contacting me about this mandatory vaccination policy or you'll lose your job. This is the document here. I'm putting the link down to that document in full. Please look at it, share it around. This has to go viral because right now, as of tomorrow, the healthcare workers have their deadline to have their first dose, or they're out of a job. They will either be put off, sacked, or the Minister for Health said leave without pay, which is in effect sacking. Well, how long is leave without pay going to last for? Again, Fair Work Commission has just said that a blanket mandatory vaccination policy breaches our democratic way of life. It is far and above more than what is necessary to contain the public health risk, which is the purpose of a public health order. It's more about control and now punishing people who haven't got the vaccine. This is not Australia, people. We need to stand up, spread this message around, share this Fair Work Commission decision, share it to all your friends, tell them where to go from page 31 onwards. That's the relevant stuff about COVID vaccinations. Share this video around. This is the facts. Finally, this commission has determined that what our government in New South Wales is doing is gone way too far, and it has to stop. It has to stop now.